welcome to Crime Time 911. Do you know how sometimes stories just stick with you? They're in the back of your mind and you just can't stop thinking about them because they feel unfinished. You don't know the ending to the story. You wonder, am I going to be happy, sad, angry, a mix of emotions? Well, that's exactly how I would describe the case of Lisa Marie Young. And it's important to also remember that Lisa was a real person. She was a daughter. She was a sister. She was a friend. She wasn't just always a missing person. So before we dive into the details of the case of Lisa Marie Young, let's set the tone. Let's go back to what Nanaimo, BC would have been like in 2002. So back then, Nanaimo was a coastal beauty. It had small town energy. It was, a quiet, more compact little city back then. It had a lively downtown, especially during long weekends, like the Canada Day long weekend. It had the atmosphere that any 20-year-old would want when they were, looking to go out for a night of clubbing, to celebrate a birthday, or in this case, go out for the Canada Day long weekend. So it's also important to remember that back in 2002, there was no smartphones. Social media wasn't nearly anything like it is today. We didn't share our locations with each other. Sometimes we might text each other, the old analog kind of text or what was it called? TTY text, where you have to press one button 3 or 4 times to get a particular letter. It wasn't easy to stay in communication like it is today. And, we didn't really leave much of a digital trail because, the technology hadn't advanced to where it is today either. So let's talk about who Lisa was. Lisa was the eldest child to Don and Marlene. She had 2 younger brothers. She grew up in Nanaimo and attended Brecken Elementary and Woodland Secondary schools. She was very close with her family. Her mom would describe her as independent, strong-willed. She was described by an acquaintance, Dallas, as an outgoing, confident, bubbly, noticeable person. She, also had plans back then. She planned to move into a new apartment. She was getting ready to start a new job at a call center. Like, her life seemed to be really, moving in the right direction. Like most 20-something-year-olds would love to be doing at that time. She also hoped to become a TV sports broadcaster one day. So on June 29th at around 11 p.m., Lisa leaves her home to go out and meet friends at a nightclub. She's, all dressed up, excited to go out and celebrate, like we all did. I remember, back in 2002, I remember, being excited to go out and party with my friends and dancing. I just love to dance. So she's, all dressed up, excited to go celebrate. It actually happened to be also not only just the Canada Day long weekend, but a friend's birthday. So she goes out to a place called the Jungle Cabaret, which was a very popular nightclub at the time. So at around 2:30 a.m., the club closes. So Lisa and her friend Dallas are standing outside, sort of wondering, I guess, what to do next. Should we go home? Should we find somewhere else to go? When they're approached by a man named Christopher Adair. This was somebody that they had not known. So Chris kind of stuck out in a way because he drove an older red Jaguar, which wasn't something that a lot of people in that area did, let alone somebody so young. So that kind of stuck out in everybody's mind about Chris because, not many people drive old style classic cars, especially in their early to mid 20s. So Chris mentions to Lisa and Dallas that he knows of a nearby house party and offers to give them a ride. And again, back in the early 2000s, we were more trusting. It was more likely that people would jump into a car with somebody that they didn't know versus today, where we might be more hesitant. We might ask ourselves more questions. But back then, I guess we just didn't have the fear, or, we didn't have the access to the stories like we do today. So sharing rides with somebody you don't know was actually fairly common. So they arrived at the house party. It was a typical house party for the early 2000s. It had loud music. There was a crowded room full of, people that were friends, people that were strangers, people that were acquaintances. Everybody was just, mingling, drinking, having a great time, having conversations. This is Lisa's vibe. This is where she loves to be. She fits right in. She's comfortable in that scene. She mingles with people. However, she always seems to stay close to her friends as possible. I guess they were like her safety net, which of course we all have a safety net in one way or another. So Chris is also there. Christopher blends in as well. He, is social, friendly. Nothing about him raises any red flags. He seems like a normal guy. He seems like everybody else at that party. So as most parties do, unfortunately, you're having a good time. And then all of a sudden the party just starts to fade out. The vibe just goes from, happy, upbeat, exciting to, oh, this isn't very fun anymore. So Christopher mentions a second party that they can go to. And of course, he offers to drive them there as well. However, this party is a little bit more chaotic. It's crowded. There's people everywhere. There's people in the living room, in the kitchen, on the deck. It's not quite as, small and compact as the first party was. But again, Lisa fits right in. She gets in there, she mingles, always staying close to her friends, of course. So they're all having a good time. Nobody seems suspicious of anything. Nobody kind of has a bad vibe. Lisa's, right in her element. She doesn't seem uncomfortable or anything like that. Nobody, has any concerns until there was a shift in the night. However, at the time, nobody even realized that the shift had even happened. So what happens is Lisa goes to her friends and says, she's hungry. Let's go get something to eat, or I want to go get something to eat. Well, who overhears this? Christopher. Christopher hears that Lisa wants to go get something to eat. So being the nice, friendly stranger that he's been all night, he's been hanging out with them, no cause for concern at all for this guy. He offers to take Lisa out to get something to eat. So of course, Lisa says, okay, yeah, let's go get something to eat, and takes off with him. However, before she goes, she does tell her friends, I'll see you in a little bit. So that sort of indicates that she hadn't intended to wrap up the night and go home. She fully intended to come back to the party to spend more time with her friends. So she goes off with Christopher. He takes her, to go get food. Again, everything seems normal. At around 4:30 a.m., Lisa calls Dallas and tells him that, hey, I don't know where I am. Christopher has parked in this random driveway. I am so frustrated. I don't feel comfortable. I don't know what's going on. He won't bring me back to the party. She's, bored and frustrated, but not really panicking. So, I guess she's kind of like, what's going on here? I don't understand why he won't bring me back to the party. But again, she still doesn't feel any like red flags. Nothing is saying to her, you're in danger or you should get out of the situation. She's just more, I guess, angry or frustrated that she can't get back to her friends. And I totally understand that. Back then when I was in my early 20s, I didn't want to end the night like ever. I would have partied for days if I could. Because you just get into that vibe and it just feels really, really, good. It's a good energy. It's, you know what I'm saying. Anyways. So yeah. So she tells Dallas, look, I don't know. We're in this driveway. I don't know what's going on. He doesn't bring me home, or he won't bring me back. I don't know what to do. And then after that, there's no more contact with Lisa. That's the last known contact with Lisa, outside of Chris being the last known person to actually see her alive. So I guess her friends just assumed, maybe she changed her mind. Maybe, she decided to go home after she got some food. So the next morning, Lisa's parents realized that she didn't come home that night. So where did she go? That it was not like Lisa to not come home without at least calling first and saying, hey, I'm staying at a friend's house, or I'm not coming home, or whatever the case may be. She was always the responsible person to say, hey, I'm not coming home. So, don't worry about me. But in this case, she didn't call her parents to tell them that she wasn't coming home that night. So this was an immediate red flag when her parents realized the next morning that Lisa had not come home. Immediately, they start calling hospitals. They try to retrace her steps. They drive around Nanaimo. They call her friends, anybody and everybody. They're asking all kinds of questions. They're trying to figure out what happened to their daughter. Eventually, they call the police and they tell the police, like, hey, my daughter is missing. She's not, like, it's out of character. It's out of character for her to not tell us where she's been. She definitely couldn't have just, decided to go off and do her own thing, because she literally had plans. She had her job coming up. She had a new apartment lined up. Not something that somebody who planned on going missing would typically do, right? So they explained all this. So the police, again, they take it very, very seriously. They start a missing persons investigation right away. They ask questions, all the things that they need to do in order to start the investigation. And between her friends and family asking questions and the police, one name constantly came up: Christopher, the guy with the red Jaguar. So as I said, the police take it very seriously. They don't make them wait 24 hours like you hear a lot of police cases do, or even in some cases that I've covered already, where the police say you have to wait 24 hours. She's an adult, blah, blah, blah. They take it seriously because they know, they get the vibe from Lisa's parents that this is not like their daughter. And so they start their investigation. According to publicly available information, the last known signal of Lisa's cell phone was pinged in the Departure Bay area. So eventually police find and locate Christopher. He agrees to talk to them. So he goes into the police station. He does a full interview with them. He's giving statements. He's talking to them. He's doing all the right things. And no charges are ever laid because there's no evidence that Christopher is actually involved in the disappearance of Lisa. So unfortunately, these details of the interview were not made public. So I don't know what he said or what he didn't say in these interviews, but I can only trust that hopefully the police used their better judgment and, did the right thing in letting him go. And I understand, even if they have suspicions, you have to have hard evidence in order to be able to hold somebody. So obviously, at the very least, they did not have that evidence. It's also reported that as of 2017, Christopher's been living in Turkey. So I don't know if that was a coincidence. I don't know if he was, being shamed in the public or if people were threatening him or anything like that. I don't know. Was he running from something? Was he running because he was guilty? Or was he just simply relocating for a job? Maybe he met somebody. Maybe he left because he was being threatened because, he was the last known person to see Lisa. So I'm sure some people suspect him as being, the one to do something with her. That's the last known location that Chris has been in. So early on in the investigation, within the first 48 hours, police visit both house parties. They check on Bowen Road, where Lisa had reportedly called Dallas to let him know that she was sitting in a driveway there. There was nothing found, no physical evidence whatsoever. They checked the houses of people that had also been at the party. Again, nothing found. So now it's been over 20 years since Lisa went missing. I can't even imagine how her parents must feel to go this long, 20 years. Could you imagine as a parent, or even not even as a parent, somebody goes missing 20 years ago and you have no information, no details, no, nothing's found. Her, no remains are found, no hint of where she could have been. She's literally, it's like she just was here 1 second and then vanished into thin air the next. Like, I can't even imagine what that would feel like to anybody who knew her, or even if it happened to, one of my own children. I would literally go nuts. Like, I don't think I could handle it. But it seems like her friends and family are very strong, and they do everything that they can in the community to keep her memory alive. Her friends and family do annual walks, they hold signs, they tell stories, they do anything and everything to ensure that she's not forgotten. Because at the end of the day, Lisa deserved to come home. She deserved to live the life that she was building, and I'm sure that if she had been given that chance, we would see her as a sports TV broadcaster. She more than likely would have made it, she would have reached the goal that she had set out for her. So that's the story of Lisa. If you or anybody you know has any information on what might have happened to Lisa that night, please reach out to the Nanaimo, BC RCMP. It doesn't matter how big or little the details are, any detail could help break this case wide open. What are your thoughts on the case of Lisa Marie Young? What do you think might have happened to her? Please leave your opinions in your thoughts below in the comments. However, please be mindful and respectful of everyone involved in this case. Don't forget to hit that follow button so that you don't miss a future episode. Thank you again for listening to Crime Time 911. Stay safe, stay curious, and remember to always trust your gut.